It's almost here. You are about to witness the very moment that could just break you. And this may be your only warning. What if I told you most people don't fail their awakening? They get destroyed by it. And tomorrow, on July 2nd, you're going to be forced to make a choice. And whatever you decide might be the choice that breaks you or make you untouchable. That's why most people don't fail their awakening. They get ambushed by it. Not because they're weak, but because no one ever warned them what it actually takes. If you've recently felt a little farther away from people, even without a clear reason, you're not alone. There's a reason you feel this way, even if it hasn't revealed itself yet. Feel free to share it if you want. Someone else might see it and realize they're not the only one. And what most people never expect is that something feeds on your awakening energy, especially when you're at your brightest. I'll explain exactly what that is later and why it shows up when you're most vulnerable. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is the real reason people disappear during this process and never return the same. If you're alone right now, you're closer than you think. There's a strange moment that happens after awakening begins. People vanish. Your texts go unanswered. The world feels like it went mute. You start wondering if you made a mistake, if this path is even real. But this silence, it's not a punishment. It's a cocoon. Because the nervous system, the actual wiring of your being, cannot evolve in chaos. It pulls you out of your old circles, your old rhythms, your old distractions, so it can recode you in stillness. But most people don't stay long enough to find out. They confuse the silence with failure. They go back to noise. They go back to numbness. They don't survive. And if you're still here, watching, there's a reason. Because something else is starting to stir beneath the isolation. What you're feeling isn't yours, but it still needs to be faced. One of the strangest symptoms of awakening hits silently, and it hits deep. You'll start to feel like you've done something terribly wrong, but you can't explain what. There's no specific event, no memory you can trace. Just this heavy, crawling guilt sitting in your chest. It doesn't make logical sense, but that's because it isn't coming from your logic, it's coming from your soul. On July 2nd, with the moon in its first quarter, a rare kind of pressure begins to rise. And what it does best is pull buried guilt to the surface. Not from this lifetime necessarily, but from echoes, other versions of you. Timelines where you made different choices, where things ended worse, where harm was done or never repaired. Your soul carries the residue, and now the residue is knocking. This is the moment where you don't just face your shadows, you face the shadows of every version of you that ever lived. And it's not punishment, it's invitation. Most people feel this wave of guilt and run from it. They try to numb it, blame it on mood swings or stress or the past. But those who sit with it, breathe through it, and choose forgiveness, not just for themselves now, but for all of their selves, begin to burn through karma they didn't even know they had. The heaviness you feel isn't proof that something is wrong. It's proof that something is ready to be healed. And just when you think you've begun to understand it mentally, something even more bizarre starts to happen. You'll wake up one day and suddenly, the food you've always loved makes you feel nauseous. Your favorite perfume feels wrong. Even the way you sleep, the way you move, the way you dress, it all starts to feel like you're wearing someone else's skin, and you are, because you've outgrown it. This isn't a trend. This isn't placebo. This is the body's way of clearing what's incompatible with your next frequency. On July 2nd, the moon doesn't just shift light in the sky, it flips a switch in the body. It's subtle at first. You may think you're getting picky, sensitive, maybe even broken. But the truth is, your body is getting smarter. It's not tolerating anything that blocks the spiritual signal anymore. Awakening isn't just felt in the heart, it rewrites your biology. Your sleep patterns start changing. You crave more water. Certain clothes feel too tight, not physically, but energetically. Environments you used to tolerate suddenly feel suffocating. People you loved being around now leave you drained. Most people panic. They push back. They try to force themselves to eat the same, move the same, live the same. But that resistance slows the transformation. Those who listen, who trust their body's strange new intelligence, start to accelerate. They awaken faster than they thought possible. And right as your body starts to calibrate to this new energetic blueprint, a new kind of interference begins. Not physical, not emotional, something else. The voice trying to save you is actually trying to stop you. Just when you think you're making progress, right when things start cracking open, comes the whisper. Or maybe it's a scream. Either way, it shows up loud, panicked, familiar. The voice in your head suddenly becomes a courtroom. What are you even doing? This is stupid. You're losing it. This is too much. None of this is real. That voice isn't you. That's your ego in survival mode. You're not actually falling apart. You're breaking open. But to the ego, there's no difference. The ego sees the unknown as death. An awakening? That's a death to everything it built a life around. The ego doesn't fear change. It fears becoming irrelevant. Now here's what makes July 2nd so potent. The first quarter moon isn't a soft glow. It's a split spotlight, half light, half dark. And that specific balance of energies is enough to charge the ego, just enough for it to try one final time to pull you back into the familiar. This is what makes so many people turn around right before their breakthrough. They misinterpret the ego's alarm bells as intuition. They confuse fear with truth. The ego is cunning like that. It uses your own voice, your own logic, your own wounds to convince you to stay small. But if you can learn to watch the ego without fusing with it, if you can witness it as a system trying to do its job rather than the keeper of your identity, then something amazing starts to happen. It weakens, it gets quieter, it burns off like fog in the sun. Most people think they have to kill the ego. But the truth is, you just have to stop letting it drive. And right when you do that, right when the ego starts to dissolve, you'll come face to face with something far older and much deeper. The scariest part of awakening isn't what's new, it's what you've buried. Once the ego begins to loosen its grip, the terrain shifts again. What was once a mental battle suddenly turns emotional, instinctual, raw. It's no longer about what you think, it's about what's always been hiding beneath the surface. You start having strange dreams. Old faces reappear. You remember things you didn't know you forgot. Triggers come out of nowhere, and they hit harder than ever. That's not random. That's the shadow stepping forward, and it has only one mission: to be seen. The shadow doesn't haunt you to destroy you. It haunts you because it's tired of being alone. The spiritual path doesn't just lead you to light. It forces you to walk through your darkness. The parts of yourself you've disowned, denied, rejected, they all come back in technicolor, asking to be reclaimed. That anger, that envy, that trauma, that shame. And the trap? Most people think these parts mean they're broken, that they're regressing, so they fight it, suppress it, escape into spiritual bypassing, love and light talk, fake calm. But those who survive, those who transform, they do the opposite. They meet the shadow. They talk to it, sit with it. They ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Because every shadow is a messenger. Every demon is a distorted version of a gift you buried to survive. The moon's light on July 2nd doesn't just illuminate your growth, it exposes your ghosts. And whether those ghosts become your allies or your enemies depends on one thing only. Will you listen or will you run? You won't just forget who you were, you'll forget why you ever started changing at all. One of the most disorienting parts of awakening isn't the chaos or the emotion or the constant shedding of old layers. It's when the very reason you chose this path disappears from your memory. Out of nowhere, your sense of purpose begins to dissolve. Things that once lit a fire in you feel muted, distant, even meaningless. And the worst part? You can't tell if you're evolving or simply breaking down. This isn't a sign that you're lost. It's a spiritual reset. What's happening is something most people never talk about. As your consciousness expands, your old motivations, goals, and identities can't hold your energy anymore. But before the new structure fully anchors, there's an intermission, a kind of memory wipe where everything feels slippery and unreal. You start questioning everything. Did I make this up? Was this just a phase? Is any of this even real? And for a moment, maybe a few days, maybe longer, it feels like the lights have gone out. This is spiritual amnesia. It shows up right before major internal upgrades. The mind goes blank, so the soul can step forward. But the trap? People think they're failing. They panic. They reach for something, anything, to make the fog go away. And that desperate reaching is what knocks them out of alignment. Spiritual amnesia isn't a detour, it's the tunnel between dimensions. If you're in it, the key isn't to figure everything out. It's to remember how it felt before the forgetting. That initial pull, the strange sense of being called, the goosebumps you couldn't explain. That knowing that something was waiting for you. Those moments were real, more real than anything you're doubting now. And once you stop fighting the void, once you trust it has intelligence, you'll feel something warm start to return. Not a concept, not a belief, a frequency, a felt sense. The memory will come back, but it won't be the same. It'll be deeper, quieter, and stronger. And just as your field starts to stabilize again, just as you're beginning to shine from a truer place, that's when they show up. As soon as your light stabilizes, something comes to feed. Most people think the struggle ends when clarity returns, but that's actually when the real test begins. Because now, you're radiating at a frequency you've never held before. There's coherence in your field. There's power. There's light. But light doesn't just attract blessings, it attracts attention. When you're in survival mode, low-frequency entities don't see you. But the second you stabilize in your truth, you become a beacon. This isn't metaphor, it's literal. Spiritual light is a signal, and not everyone who answers has good intentions. These aren't necessarily people, although they can be. Sometimes it's that one friend who always leaves you drained after a conversation. Sometimes it's a family member who suddenly becomes aggressive or overly dependent. Other times it's subtle. A weird encounter at a store, a dream that feels invasive. Random, unexplainable exhaustion after walking into a room that felt off. These moments often get brushed off. But survivors of spiritual awakening learn to read the energy first and the situation second. You don't need to become paranoid, but you do need to become sovereign. Energetic sovereignty isn't just about cutting cords or shielding yourself. It's about knowing where your field ends and someone else's begins. It's about recognizing when something is siphoning your presence, your attention, your clarity, and choosing deliberately not to feed it. And here's the part nobody says out loud. Some of these energetic feeders don't show up as threats. They show up as flattery, as obsession, as spiritual community. That's why it's not about rejecting people, it's about recognizing patterns. The first sign, something is feeding on your field. You start doubting yourself again, not from within, but from outside influence. You can feel the static in your chest, like something's tugging on your signal. When that happens, pull back, center, seal. Reclaim your space, not with force, but with presence. Because the stronger your light becomes, the more you'll need to protect it, not out of fear, but out of respect. And as you master that, you'll notice something even stranger start to happen. The world around you begins to rearrange itself, as if it was always waiting for you to wake up. When the flood comes, it doesn't ask if you're ready. It just rises. One of the most unpredictable phases of spiritual awakening is the sudden emotional chaos that comes out of nowhere. No trigger, no warning, no logical reason. One minute you're sipping coffee, the next minute your chest is heaving, tears in your eyes, memories you haven't thought about in years, crashing through like tidal waves. This isn't a breakdown. This is the release of everything you didn't get to feel when it happened the first time. The emotional body stores experiences that the mind rejected, pain that was too inconvenient, grief that was too loud, rage that had nowhere to go. And when a lunar surge like July 2nd hits, that dam doesn't just crack, it explodes. What makes this so destabilizing is how random it seems. Sudden crying in traffic. Sudden fury at someone who's not even alive anymore. Sudden euphoria that overwhelms you, then vanishes. Emotions are data, delayed, encrypted, and waiting for the right cosmic key to unlock. And this moon? It's that key. Most people don't survive this stage because they try to analyze what should be alchemized. They try to think their way out of the flood instead of letting themselves feel fully, deeply, without judgment. But here's the truth that no one tells you. You are not supposed to feel okay all the time. You are supposed to feel everything. The rage, the grief, the shame, the joy, the terror, the wonder. Feeling it doesn't mean it owns you. It means it's leaving. People who suppress these waves end up relapsing spiritually. They feel stuck, looping through the same issues. Not because they're broken, but because they never let the storm pass through. Emotional mastery isn't control, it's capacity. You don't need to fix the emotion. You just need to be the space wide enough to hold it, to float above the chaos instead of being dragged under, to let it rise, crest, and crash without making it your identity. Those who allow this flood to move through them become something else entirely. They stop fearing emotions. They stop judging themselves for feeling too much. And instead, they learn how to read emotional weather like a mystic reads the sky. And when the storm finally clears, when the floodwaters recede, what's left isn't just a calmer heart, it's a new kind of perception. After illusion dies, reality flattens, unless you remember how to see. No one warns you about this part. After the tears, after the breakthroughs, after the healing, you might wake up one morning and look at the world and feel nothing. The colors look dull. The sounds feel far away. Conversations feel scripted. Food, music, art, it all feels hollow. like you're living in a cardboard cutout of a world that once felt alive. This is the phase where many give up. They assume something's wrong, that they've broken something inside themselves, that maybe awakening wasn't worth it. But this isn't failure. It's deflation, the collapse of the false enchantments that once seduced you. You're not broken, you're finally sober. All the projections, illusions, conditioned desires, they've been burned off. But what's left behind isn't the problem. What's left is the raw material of reality, waiting for you to re-enchant it on your own terms. Re-enchantment doesn't happen automatically, it must be chosen. You have to decide to infuse meaning back into your life, not through fantasy, but through presence. You have to relearn how to see the sacred in the ordinary, the glint of light on water, the sound of wind pushing through trees, the exact way a stranger laughs at something you'll never hear. These aren't just aesthetics, they are the code of a reawakened world. But you can't see it with the same eyes you used to. What this stage requires is conscious re-ritualization. You must learn to play again, not to numb out, but to remember what it means to create awe. Light a candle with intention, walk barefoot at dusk, talk to the moon like it's a being, not a rock. This is the re-enchantment protocol. It's the part where the mystic becomes the artist of reality, where imagination stops being an escape and becomes a technology, where the spiritual isn't something you reach for, it's something you generate. And once that spark reignites, you'll realize something strange has happened. You're no longer chasing awakening. You're living it. But even then, the path isn't done. Because at your brightest, when your signal is strongest, the world sends a test that no one sees coming. Survival isn't just about making it through, it's about becoming something else entirely. If you're still here, if you've made it through the confusion, the isolation, the floods, the ego battles, then what begins now can't be undone. This is the part no one talks about, because most people don't get here. Most turn back, they settle, they numb out, they loop in spiritual bypassing or dive back into distraction because facing everything was too much. But if you do survive, if you endure the burning, if you refuse to fold even when everything in you begs for escape, then something incredible happens. Your nervous system, yes, the very wiring in your body, evolves. You become able to hold higher frequencies without short-circuiting. You stop panicking every time something unfamiliar enters your field. Instead of being overwhelmed by subtle shifts, you sense them, track them, move with them. Your body becomes the temple. Your signal becomes the prayer. The spiritual becomes less abstract, less performative. It's not about reading more books or saying the right things or curating your energy online. You become the thing you were once searching for. You don't try to connect with Source. You are connected, constantly, effortlessly, without needing ritual to prove it. Intuition? It's no longer a whisper you second-guess. It's a knowing that strikes with the force of lightning and the clarity of still water. Protection? You don't have to chant it. You radiate it. Desire? It isn't ego chasing, it's alignment pulled straight from your highest timeline. Survival isn't escape, it's embodiment. This is where you stop chasing signs and become one. This is where people start to feel it when you walk into a room. Not because you're loud, not because you're flashy, but because you've been through fire and you carry the signature of someone who never broke. And July 2nd? It's not just a random date, it's a gate. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.